Whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. What profit would there be for one to gain the whole world and forfeit his life? Or what can one give in exchange for his life? For the Son of Man will come with his angels in his Father's glory, and then he will repay all according to his conduct. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
You may be seated. If you decided you were going to travel to Pittsburgh, there are a number of routes you could take. You could take 80 and head west and then drop down to Pittsburgh. You could drop down and then take 76 and head west to Pittsburgh. You could go north on 1115, go off into Canada, cross the bottom of Canada all the way over to the west coast, drop down through, come across the Midwest, and you would be in Pittsburgh. Or maybe you could go down the East Coast. You could go down to Florida around the Panhandle, come up to the Midwest somewhere, and you end up in Pittsburgh. In any of these ways, you're going to end up there ultimately. Well, one of the trips is more direct than the other. Some of them perhaps more scenic, but much longer. And this is that path that we're following to the divine. And you will have very few people in your life who will just go north and then take 80 west. For most of us, it's going to be a long journey, and we're going to have some twists and turns, some unexpected roadblocks or detours. And that's what it's all about. As long as we're working toward getting to the ultimate destination, which is being with God. And the psalmist says our soul is thirsty for you. But thirst is something that we can't control. We don't get the water, we're thirsty. And just as though we can deny our relationship with God, we still have that relationship created. And so we're all on this journey to the divine. And it seems that we're all trying to get to the same destination. And we might help each other get to that same destination. There are a number of people who these days suffer with anxiety. When I was younger, I don't even remember hearing about anxiety. And they probably called it something else back then, who knows. But it's a very real thing. It can be very debilitating for a number of people. There was this guy, a sophomore in college. I knew him when I was chaplain at Trinity High School, so I knew him in high school. And as a sophomore in college, he always suffered from anxiety, and he had kind of a few close friends. He didn't have a lot of tight-knit friends. But as he told me later on, he said, I went to the doctor, and they tried therapy, and it didn't work. And then they tried to prescribe drugs, and they didn't work. I went through all these different medications, and it wasn't working. And that's why, for the first time, he had tried marijuana. It was actually in one of those, it's almost like a jewel thing, like a vape kind of thing. And when he tried this on his college campus, the chemical reaction was immediate. He went into a psychosis. Now, psychosis pretty much debilitates a person. You have neuroses and the like. But a psychosis is something that is actually keeping you from living life. And he started going down this steep plane into nothingness. He didn't care about anything. He didn't care about anyone, least of all himself. And I mean, he was on the verge of ending his life. Think about that for a minute. A 20-year-old being on the verge of ending their life. There's so much more. You can come back from almost anything but death. And so finally, he was confronted by his parents. He's their only child, the only son. And they began to walk through this. So the parents had called me, and I was speaking with them. And they were saying how he's doing much better. He's off all that stuff. He's been in contact with his friends. And I had to be cautious because anyone who's worked with addiction, a person is addicted, they lie. They have to. And it's a way of life. It's not that they're malicious or anything. It's self-protection. And I mentioned this, and they didn't receive that too well. And so I didn't talk to them again for a while. The next time they called me, he was in a 30-day program, in-house. And he was kicking and screaming the whole way in there. And they said, yes, he had started using again. He had lied to us and everything else. So he's about halfway through this 30-day program, and he begins to turn the corner. And I'm talking to his parents, and they also said, we've stopped using alcohol. Because they would have, wine or a couple glasses of wine with dinner or whatever else. They said, no, we all want to be on board with this. And they did. They changed their lifestyle in a way to help his healing. Eventually he got out of the 30-day, and he still had these, psychotic episodes, but he was learning how to control them. He went into outpatient, and he's still working on getting better and better. Every day is better for him. He's learning to embrace that he's going to be in recovery for the rest of his life. He's learning to know that he can depend on his friends without overburdening them. And many of his friends wanted to know what he was struggling with. And because of this, his family is healing, and he's beginning to heal. So Jesus gives 3 commands today in the gospel. Once Peter says, you're never going to suffer, you're never going to sacrifice. Because that's their mindset. They don't want to suffer and sacrifice. This is the Messiah. He's supposed to liberate them and everything's going to be great. And he gives them 3 commands. He doesn't just say, take up your cross and follow me. He says, deny yourself. Take up your cross and follow me. At the beginning I talked about this journey, and some of us are going to take the long road, and that's going to be full of little crosses. Every single day, we will embrace some cross that we might not have asked for. And it could have been because of our actions or lack thereof. It could be because of someone else putting it upon us. But we have crosses. That's the way it is. It's inevitable. But if we can find meaning in those crosses, and if perhaps carrying some of those crosses helps one of our brothers and sisters. That's what the whole journey is all about. Sometimes we shy away from suffering. I don't want any suffering. The apostles did it. But it is through suffering that we can find meaning that we might not have been able to otherwise. If we look at our life over the times we've changed the most, usually it was preceded by some crisis. In other words, we were forced to change in a way that we might not have otherwise. There's a story of a field zoologist. And I don't know if they have field zoology or field biology. If they do, take it. Because what we did is we spent time in the woods. He would walk us through and say, point out all the things you see, and we didn't see anything, of course. And then he'd take us back through and tell us all the things that we missed. So it's really about learning how to look. But this field zoologist was taking his class to the woods, and one of them lagged behind because he was watching this butterfly struggling to get out of its cocoon. It had cut a small hole, and it was forcing its body through. And it would wriggle and fight for a little while, and force its body, and then just stop it. And then again, it would start up, and be pushing and forcing its body to that little hole, and wriggling and wrestling with the cocoon, and then it would stop again, feeling exhausted. And this went on for a while until the student finally thought, why am I watching this? I can help this butterfly. And so he took a little scissor that he had in his knife, and he just cut the cocoon just a little bit more. And the butterfly very easily emerged. And as it emerged, it put out its wings, which looked like crumpled up orange aluminum foil. And it would bat these wrinkled up wings around like it was trying to fly. But it didn't fly. Its abdomen was still filled with fluid. And so it dragged its abdomen around, batting these little wrinkled up wings, trying to fly. And about this time, the zoology professor came back, and he said, look at the marvel of nature. This butterfly cuts a small hole in the cocoon, and over hours, sometimes over a day, they will force their large body through that small hole. And as they're doing that, it forces all the liquid from their abdomen out through the veins of the wings, making the wings strong, giving them vascular support so that when the butterfly is finally emerged after wrestling and fighting, it can bat its wings and fly. Many times we want to avoid the suffering, and yet it is in the suffering that we finally are able to fly. If Jesus himself needed help from Simon of Cyrene to carry his cross, why would we not also need help? And psychiatrists can't tell you why, but for whatever reason, when we share our burden with someone else, it is lightened a little. When Jesus says, deny yourself, that's the first part. Sometimes people won't share because they don't want to be burdensome. And please understand, virtue's in the middle. If someone is depending on you constantly, that's codependency. That's not good. Virtue's in the middle. But to be able to help our brothers and sisters, especially those who might be on the outer margins, is what it means to deny ourselves, to take up our cross and follow him. Because despite the fact that he's going to Jerusalem to suffer, he still performed miracles for those who needed it. He still preached the gospel. All in his journey, as we will one day journey as well, toward the divine. Deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. And that will not only change your life, but it will definitely change the lives of those you encounter on your journey.